In the year 9, a Roman general rode at the head of 3 legions into a dark German forest, and none of them ever rode out. His name was Publius Quinctilius Varus, and he was one of the most trusted men in the Roman Empire. A governor, a nobleman, married into the family of the emperor himself. Behind him marched the 17th, the 18th, and the 19th legions, some 15 to 20,000 men, the finest soldiers in the world, carrying the golden eagles that had conquered from Spain to Syria. Varus believed he was riding through a pacified province on his way to winter quarters, putting down one small local revolt. He was in fact riding into the most catastrophic ambush in Roman history, a trap laid by the one man he trusted most. This is that disaster, seen through the eyes of the general who walked his army into the trees. To understand the man, understand his job. Varus was not, at heart, a fighting general. He was an administrator, an imperial governor sent to turn the wild lands east of the Rhine into a proper Roman province, and he ruled it as if that work were already done. He held Roman courts in the German forests, imposed Roman taxes, and treated the fierce tribes of Germania as if they were the tame provincials of Syria, where he had governed before. His 3 legions were not there to conquer. They were there to police a land Rome believed it had already tamed. Varus was confident, comfortable, and completely certain that the tribes had accepted their new masters. In his own words, he governed Germania like a province at peace. It was the single most dangerous assumption a Roman commander could make, because standing at his right hand, smiling, translating, advising, was a young German prince he considered a loyal friend. That prince was named Arminius, and on the surface, he was the perfect bridge between 2 worlds. He was a nobleman of the Cherusci, one of the German tribes, but he had been raised partly in Rome, had commanded German auxiliary cavalry in the Roman army, spoke fluent Latin, and had even been granted Roman citizenship and the rank of knight. To Varus, Arminius was living proof that Germania could be Romanized. He dined at the general's table, rode at his side, and whispered helpful advice into his ear. Varus trusted him completely. But Arminius was playing a long and patient game. In secret, riding from hall to hall through the forests, he had done something no one thought possible. He had united the quarrelsome, feuding German tribes into a single alliance, sworn to one purpose: to lure Rome's legions into the deep woods and destroy them. The most trusted man in Varus's camp was the architect of its annihilation. And Varus was warned. Another German noble, a rival of Arminius named Segestes, came to the general with a blunt and desperate message. Arminius is plotting treason. He is turning the tribes against you. Arrest him, arrest us all at a feast, before it is too late. It was the truth, delivered plainly, in time to save 3 legions. But Varus would not hear it. He knew of the bad blood between the 2 men, and he waved the warning away as mere jealousy. One German trying to ruin another. Arminius was his friend. Arminius was a Roman citizen. The idea that this cultured young officer could be secretly assembling an army in the woods was to Varus almost absurd, and so, with the trap already set and the warning ringing in his ears, the general did nothing at all. He simply gave the order to break camp and to march, on Arminius's advice, toward news of a distant rebellion. It was autumn, the campaigning season ending, and Varus was leading the legions from their summer camp back toward the Rhine for winter. Then came the report, carried, of course, by Arminius's people. A rebellion had flared up among a far-off tribe. Varus made the fatal decision. Rather than take the safe, open, well-scouted road, he turned his entire army off its route and struck out through unfamiliar country to put the uprising down. Arminius rode with him a while, then peeled away, with his warriors promising to raise more loyal Germans and catch up. Varus let him go, and now the great column entered the forest. Picture it, an army strung out for miles along a single muddy track. Legionaries, cavalry, artillery, and behind them a vast baggage train, mules, wagons, servants, women, and children. Not a compact fighting force, but a long, slow, vulnerable snake threading blind between the trees, exactly as Arminius had planned. Then the sky opened. A cold autumn storm broke over the forest, driving rain, wind, mud that sucked at every boot and wheel. The track dissolved, the column bunched and staggered, and out of the dripping trees, the javelins came. At first, it was just a few. Spears hurled from the green shadows by men the Romans could barely see, who struck and vanished before a shield could be raised. Varus, somewhere in that column, did what any Roman general would do. He sent his orders racing up and down the line. Close ranks, form up, drive them off. But there was no line to form. In open country, a Roman legion was the most lethal machine on earth, a wall of shields and iron discipline. Here, among the trees and the mud, in a column miles long, they could not deploy. They could not see their enemy, and the men who had smiled and served in their camp for years were now killing them from the dark. What followed was not a battle. It was a running massacre, spread over 3 or 4 days. That first night, the bloodied Romans did the disciplined thing. They halted and threw up a fortified marching camp behind a ditch and rampart, just as the drill demanded. In the morning, Varus made a hard choice. He burned most of the baggage train, cut loose the wagons and the slower followers, and tried to punch the army through toward open ground. For a moment, out on clearer land, it almost worked. But then they were forced back into the forest, and the Germans were waiting. Arminius had prepared the ground itself. At a narrow place between a hill and a great bog, his men had built a long wall of turf and timber, funneling the column into a killing zone. From behind that rampart and from the trees above, the tribesmen poured down spears and stones onto the trapped legionaries below. The rain never stopped. Roman shields, made of layered wood and hide, grew waterlogged and heavy. Their bows were useless, their proud formations were gone, and the column simply bled, mile after mile, day after day. By the third day, Varus understood. This was not a revolt to be put down. This was the end of his army. His cavalry commander tried to save the horsemen by breaking away and riding for the Rhine, and was hunted down and cut to pieces in the open. The infantry, exhausted, soaked, and surrounded, were being pressed into an ever tighter, ever-shrinking knot in the trees. The eagles, the sacred standards of the legions, whose loss was the deepest disgrace a Roman could imagine, were now in terrible danger. There would be no rescue. No other army was within reach. No clever maneuver could undo what had been done the moment Varus turned off the road. The general who had governed Germania like a peaceful province now watched 3 of Rome's legions dying around him in the mud under a grey and endless rain. And so Varus made the last decision left to a defeated Roman commander. Rather than be taken alive, to be paraded, tortured, and sacrificed by the tribes, he drew his sword and fell upon it. Many of his senior officers did the same, choosing a Roman death over a German altar. Leaderless, the remnants of the army came apart. Some fought to the end, Some were slaughtered where they stood. Some were dragged away into captivity and slavery, or offered up on the tribes' sacred groves to their gods. The 3 eagles were lost, torn from Rome's grasp and carried off in triumph. The 17th, the 18th, and the 19th legions were annihilated, root and branch. Around 15 to 20,000 men swallowed by the forest. And their numbers were so cursed by the disaster that Rome, in its shame, would never raise legions with those numbers again. The news traveled south, over the mountains, all the way to Rome, and to the emperor. Augustus, master of the greatest empire the world had ever seen, was said to have been utterly broken by it. He tore his clothes. He let his hair and beard grow long for months in mourning. And according to the Roman writer Suetonius, he would beat his head against the doors of his palace, crying out again and again the words that have echoed for 2,000 years. Quinctilius Varus, give me back my legions. But the legions were gone, and they were never coming back. Rome would raid across the Rhine again in revenge, but it would never truly try to conquer Germania. That dark forest became the permanent edge of the empire. The Rhine, its frontier for centuries. One trusted friend, one ignored warning, one fatal turn off the road. And the tide of Roman conquest, which had rolled across the known world, broke at last against the trees of Germany. And a general's name became a byword for catastrophe.